Hey guys, so here we are, Thursday, social studies. Your book will look something like this if you took it home. If you did not, I emailed your parents copies of the page that look exactly like what we're looking at on the screen right now. The reason this up here looks a little funny and this down here looks a little funny is because it's the teacher copy, so I've blocked out the answers because those are the answers that you guys need to be working on. So what you're going to do is you're going to follow along with me as I read the chapter out for you. Then we're going to stop periodically and you're going to start to fill in your answers for questions 1, 2, and 3. I emailed your parents a paper that looks like this. It's a Word document. It has question 1, question 2, and question 3 here for you. You don't have to print this out. It's in Word. You can click right on it and begin to write. So you can fill in your answers. You can even make it fancy and make your answers a different color or make them stand out. But what I want is for you to complete this page and email this back to me. This is worth 10 house points. Ready? So here we go. Lesson 2, New York grows in importance. The 1800s were a time of change for New York. Inventions were created and new types of businesses were started. People moved from farms to cities. New York was changing. The Industrial Revolution in New York. Until the 1800s, people manufactured goods by hand. To manufacture is to make products. In the 1820s, workers began to make goods in factories using machines. The change from handmade goods to machine-made goods was called the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution changed how people lived and worked in New York. It also made consumer goods less expensive, so more people could afford them. This happened because when machines are now making goods instead of people, machines can make them faster. And if you can make them faster, that means you can make them cheaper or less expensive. If they're less expensive, more people can afford them. Industry in New York expanded. An industry includes all businesses that make, build, or sell one kind of product. New York had natural resources that helped industries grow, such as fast-moving water. Remember, we talked about the dams, forests, and minerals. It had human resources, or people that work in these factories. Human, people, people that work. It also had capital resources, goods that people create to make other goods. Those things are like tools, machines, or buildings. Industries grew throughout New York. In Poughkeepsie, which is upstate, about 90 minutes away, there was a carpet mill and a boot and shoe factory. There were also dye works where cloth would be colored. The salt industry became important in Syracuse. The city had many salt springs. Workers boiled away the water to make salt. Salt from Syracuse was sold around the country. Rochester's nickname was Flour City. Fast-moving water from the rivers powered many flour mills in Rochester. In the mills, wheat was ground to make flour. In Fulton County, northwest of Albany, a big industry was leather making. Leather was made by dyeing animal skins, and much of the leather was used to make gloves. In the 1800s, New Yorkers also started making pencils. Graphite was discovered in Ticonderoga in 1815. Remember these Ticonderoga pencils we talked about in class? Graphite is the soft, dark mineral that was used inside the pencil as lead. Workers at the American Graphite Company used graphite and wood from nearby forests to make pencils. They called the pencils Ticonderoga. So now we come to question 1. Fill in the information about the New York industries to complete this chart. It gives you a list of 3 industries and 1 blank. It gives you a list of 4 cities or counties and what natural resource was used. So I'm going to open up my Word document, and here it is. I made it for you. So you're going to fill in this blank for the industry, 2 blanks in city and county, and 2 blanks in natural resource used. All of that information is here in these 2 passages that we just read. So take a minute, pause the video, and fill in the information of New York industries and complete question 1. Okay, great job filling in question 1. Now we're going to turn the page. We're on pages 158 to 159. New York's inventions. Inventions were a big part of the Industrial Revolution. An invention is a new tool or product that makes work easier. Many important inventions were made in New York. The inventions opened up new jobs for workers in New York factories. Isaac Singer loved working with his hands. He invented several different kinds of tools. Then, in 1851, he came up with an idea to make machine sewing faster and easier. I'm sure any of your moms that have a sewing machine in the house most likely have a Singer sewing machine. With Singer's machine, people could make clothes more quickly than by hand. Because think about it. How long would it take to sew a shirt by hand versus how fast could you sew a shirt if you had a machine to help you? Singer opened a sewing machine factory in New York City in 1857. His invention helped make clothes become a major industry in New York. So we have number 2 over here, and it's asking about fact and opinion. It says to explain why the quote about sewing machines is an opinion. Here's the quote. In a few years, the sewing machine has gone from being a mechanical wonder to a household necessity. Take a minute. Think about this quote right here on the left-hand side and answer why the quote about the sewing machine is an opinion. Here it is on your workbook page. Explain why the quote found above the question in the text about a sewing machine is an opinion. You can click right here on the screen and begin to write your answer. Okay, welcome back. Let's pick up here. Hannah Lord Montague lived in Troy. She wanted to keep her husband's shirt collars clean and neat. That was not easy to do, so in 1827, she invented a new kind of shirt. This is what people did back then. If they didn't have a tool that could be used for the job, they created that tool that they needed for the job. So this woman, Hannah Lord Montague, created a new kind of shirt. Its collar, the thing around your neck, was detachable. That means it could be taken off and put back on. The new shirt was easier to wash and press. A factory in Troy began to manufacture shirts with detachable collars. They became very popular all around the country, and soon Troy was called Collar City. Henry Burton also lived in Troy. He had come to New York from Scotland. In 1819, Burton created many useful inventions. The horseshoe machine he made in 1835 was a real time saver. It could produce 1 iron horseshoe every second. That's crazy. A horseshoe every second in 1819. His company began supplying horseshoes to people all over the United States, including people in the Army. And here at the bottom of your page, you have this really awesome picture of an ironwork factory in New York City. Top of page 159. Samuel F.B. Morse was another famous New York inventor. He invented the telegraph, a machine that sent messages over long distances. Morse invented a code for those messages. In Morse code, letters are made of short sounds and called dots, and long sounds called dashes. For example, the letter B is made by tapping dash, dot, dot, dot. In 1814, Morse sent the first telegraph message from Baltimore, Maryland to Washington, D.C. Think about when you see in movies that they're standing there with this ball and they're going tap, 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 dot, 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 tap, tap, tap. That was Morse code. That's how they sent and relayed information in the 1800s. Telegraph messages traveled along thick wires and cables. These wires were laid over land and underwater. Wires were even laid in the Atlantic Ocean. Cables soon connected countries around the world, and people could share news faster than ever before, because before they were sending them on paper with a horse, and a man would have to ride for many, many days to bring the message to where it needed to be delivered. This telegraph system helped them send messages much, much faster. So here we are, telegraph messages that traveled along wires and cables. The telegraph would change how everybody communicated with each other. Up in our corner, we have workers at the Steinway and Sons piano factory in New York City back in the 1850s. It's really amazing to see what our country used to look like. Now we come to question 3. How many years after Hannah Lord Montagu, who's over here on the previous page, invented the detachable collar, did Isaac Singer invent his sewing machine? So it's a little bit of social studies and a little bit of math. You're figuring out how many years apart were Hannah Montagu and the invention of Singer's sewing machine. And then we come here to the bottom of the page and we have this really beautiful timeline. Here in 1827 is when Hannah Lord Montagu invents the detachable collar. And here you see that collar that would have come off the shirts. Here in 1835, we learn that Burton builds his horseshoe machine that they talked about and said would produce a horseshoe every second. This is the metal piece that goes on the bottom of the horse's foot to protect them. It's like a horse's shoe. Think of it that way. 1844, here's that telegraph machine. This machine would buzz and bounce down on this, and it would send out messages to other people with the telegraph machine. And in 1851, here's Singer's sewing machine that would make changes in clothes making. Look at this sewing machine and think about what a sewing machine that you have looks like now. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. I hope you enjoyed our social studies lesson. Make sure that you send me this completed page to my email address, which is mrs.grade4jiq@gmail.com. Send this to me filled out and completed for 10 house points. I'll see you tonight on Zoom for any questions about social studies or any questions about our essay that we wrote today. Bye, guys. See you later.